Alright, we're going to go through setting up a customer onto a weekly reoccurring task. Um, Essentially, a task um, that is the job that the technician sees in the field that's going to show up every single week. When they get to the job, they'll look at their schedule on their mobile app, and will have all of their customers that they're doing for the day, the customers that they're seeing that are on weekly recurring schedules. That is a task. So first things first, we are going to go to the Customers tab, um, type in the customer's name that we are needing to create a weekly recurring task for. We're working on John Doe. Um, Here's all the information that was put in earlier in one of the previous videos when we actually set the customer up. So you can see everything very clearly. It's very concise. Um, Here's a little side menu that we'll be going over later. When I said in that video we can filter information, bam, here it is. But here is the task tab. Read all these. We're going to click here. We're going to add a recurring task. Um, get this little box that shows up. So essentially what we need to do is put the start date. So it's going to start on, let's say they're going to start service next week. So we'll just put it on next week on Monday. If they were going to say they only be on service for 1 month, you could put an expiration date as well, 1 month after the start date, so somewhere around here. And then it would just automatically fall off the schedule at that point. The technician would no longer see it, and they would stop getting charged for that service. Or, of course, in the event that a customer is canceling service, we would need to put an expiration date here as well. But that's, of course, not the plan. So starts here. Then we have our service type for the recurring task. In this case, we're going to set up a full service cleaning, which is right here. Now, there's a lot of options in here. It kind of seem a little bit daunting. You get familiar with it, process, repetition, and doing. Because we have filter clean tasks, salt cell clean tasks. We have our partial service tasks. There's a lot of them. And all this means is that everything that's in here is something we can set up on an automatically recurring schedule. That's what a task does. So we're going to choose the full service. Automatically, the price is set at $47.50. That's the base price. But let's say you made a deal with the customer to get them on service. So we needed to change that. We would put it in our custom pricing section. So let's just say you sold it to them at $42 per week plus tax. Put that in the custom pricing, and you're good to go. Drop down to the service profile. Seen this earlier in regards to the checklist that they need to do. They need to be in sync with each other, of course. So here it is again. It's showing up again. It needs to be the full SIG checklist, like was discussed when adding the new customer. If this was a partial customer, or if they wanted to switch over to partial service, we would need to put that here, as well as go back to the customer details screen, which is right here, their actual information you were looking at when you went into the account. And you would need to change it in that spot that we put it earlier. But it's going to be a full service. I think I just got that up. I'll leave that alone. We're going to put it as a full service, so we need to, of course, correspond and say full SIG checklist. Now we actually have the recurrence, service recurrence. This is how often it's actually going to show up on the schedule for us to see, as well as for the technician to see, as well as for tracking purposes. We don't set anything up for daily. It's there as an option, but we don't set things up for daily on tasks. Dominantly, we use the weekly option, bi-weekly option, or also known as every other week. That's used in the off-season. And then the other one we really use are ones like this, the quarterly for filter clean and salt cell clean tracking, semi-annually, which is twice a year, and the every 17 weeks, which is 3 times per year. So all this is doing is making sure that it shows up in these intervals. So in this case, it will be weekly. Then we need to assign it to the technician like we did earlier in the details tab. We assigned it to Charlie's Tuesday. We need to assign it here as well. The difference between assigning it here and assigning it on the initial customer setup on that details tab is that details tab is specifically for filtering that data to find out how many pulls does Charlie have on Tuesdays, whereas this one actually causes it to show up on his schedule. So we're going to put Charlie on Tuesday, just like we had on the other one. If the day of service were to change or something along those lines, we would come in and we would set this to 0 and then change it to another day of the week. Go back to the customer details, change it there as well. You can also set customers up twice a week here as well, where we would do that right here. There. Now we're going on Tuesdays with Charlie, on Thursdays with Charlie. You can give it to David on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Charlie, however which way you want to set that up. We can always do that. So, but for the sake of keeping in line with things, we're going on Tuesdays with Charlie. The next step down here, of course, is the invoice type. Invoice type just gives us multiple options on how they're going to receive their invoice for full service customers, signature service customers, partial service customers. Weekly recurring items, they are always per visit pre-billed. Every single time we'll do per visit pre-billed. In cases like filter clean tracking, salt cell tracking, things like that, we would not use this. We would actually use the per visit summary list consumables. What that means is that whenever they show up, they're going to close the job out. We're going to be collecting that money by the end of the day on that account, and whenever they close out the job, it'll actually list what chemicals they added back to the pool once they got the job done. So we always use that one for that. But for weekly recurring, full, signature, partial, per visit, pre-billed every time. The invoicing date for weekly recurring services, it will always be on, always be on the first. And just like keep going back and forth here, always on the first for these, but in the case of filter cleans and salt cell cleans, things along those lines, one-off items that we're tracking months apart, those are always when completed, because we're going to be collecting that money the day that we do the job. All of this stuff we collect the billing for weekly recurrences on the first of the month, every single month. So it needs to be set to the first. If you were to set it to when completed, that would be extremely confusing. It would tell the accounting department to collect that money as we go, which is not how we do that. So right there. And then a very important thing to always have is the recurring note, the gate codes. So those gate codes, everything on that customer detail tab, when we did the initial setup of this customer, we put a community gate code and we put a actual lock combo code as well. That's information for us to see. Not the technician doesn't see it. And so if they do have gate codes or if they have dogs, we have to put it in the recurring notes or the technician won't have access to it. So in this case, we would put community code would be, I believe it's 5555, and then the actual lock combo to the gate, or you can call it gate. Gate code. So it's 4444. And do they have dogs? Has dogs. Let's say they're aggressive dogs. We always ask that question. I said, do you have any dogs? Are they aggressive? Should we contact you to let you know that we're coming so that the dogs can be put up? If they're friendly dogs, put has dogs and that they're friendly. But if they're not, always inform the technician to call the customer or text them, whatever their preference is. Text customer 30 minutes ahead. Text the customer 30 minutes ahead to have the dogs put up. I always want to make sure that these pieces of information are there for the technician to be able to see, as well as facility descriptions that they need to know, such as park on Preston, walk to George Bush. All that is good information. Eliminating phone calls that are unnecessary, slowing them down, slowing you down. So make sure to put that stuff there. And then that's it. We have it starts here. It's all properly filled out. It looks good. Always do another once over, make sure it's set up right, check your invoicing, pre-build, check your date, yes. You can set the send service logs to customers, yes or no. These are default no. The image required, that's already a mandatory thing. This is something that Ion added recently. In our case, it's automatically set that way for the tasks, so you don't need to hit yes. It'll just do it. But for this one, some customers go out of town a lot, and they like to receive their service logs via email because they're never going to see the maintenance report in their timer box. So if it is a preference that they want, you can hit yes right here and then choose what you want to include. Do you want to include the consumables? Of course, that's why they want it. You want to include the technician comments? Yes. Inform the technician that they are receiving those comments, just in case they decide to be snarky. And then include uploaded images. That's redundant. It already does that, but seeing as this is a very specific thing to the service logs to the customers, we're going to get the images, but that doesn't mean that they're not. So hit yes. And then, yeah, now the customer gets it via email every single week. Whenever they close a job out, they'll get that report. And some people want it, some people don't. It's automatically set to no, though. So if they say something, there's your option. Do your once over, hit submit, and there you go. Now you have the recurring task. It's set up on Tuesdays with Charlie. And yeah, in the case that you actually made a mistake or something like that, this delete option is here. Now this delete option is only here for a short amount of time. It goes away once you exit this screen. If you come back 5-10 minutes later, it won't be there anymore. So if you do need to delete this for whatever reason, you're going to want to do that pretty quickly. So go ahead and hit delete. Okay, and then you can go just start all over again. Just keep on going, and you're good to go.